USPAP, page 270. Appraisal, development, and scope of work issues continued. When personal property, trade fixtures, or intangible items are included in the appraisal, the appraiser must analyze the effect on value of such non-real property items. And the comment to SR 1-4G further states, when the scope of work includes an appraisal of personal property, trade fixtures, or intangible items, competency in personal property appraisal, see Standard 7, or business appraisal, see Standard 9, is required. Given this background, each of the questions can be answered as follows. Question number 1. What exactly are the appraiser's USPAP obligations in performing this separation of value? Response: whether this is labeled a separation or an allocation, it is an appraisal as defined in USPAP. Question number 2. May this allocation be accomplished without the appraiser developing an opinion of value in compliance with Standard 7 or 9? Response: no. Once it is understood that performing this separation of value is synonymous with performing this appraisal, compliance with the applicable standards rules is required, as is appropriate competency. Question number 3. Is an allocation considered to be synonymous with an opinion of value, or is it the result of a mathematical calculation? Response: as stated in the response to question number 1, an allocation is synonymous with an appraisal. Question number 4. There are also occasions when the client does not specifically request separate valuations of non-real property assets, even though they may be present. Is the appraiser still required to value those assets separately? Response: no. This is a scope of work decision to be made by the appraiser. Standards Rule 1-4G does not require separate appraisals of these different types of assets. SR 1-4G states, when personal property, trade fixtures, or intangible items are included in the appraisal, the appraiser must analyze the effect on value of such non-real property items. Comment: when the scope of work includes an appraisal of personal property, trade fixtures, or intangible items, competency in personal property appraisal, see Standard 7, or business appraisal, see Standard 9, is required. Some appraisers and users of appraisals believe the requirement that the appraiser must analyze the effect on value of such non-real property items in Standards Rule 1-4G is a requirement for the separate appraisal of those items in all assignments. That is incorrect. Analyzing the effect on value might be appropriately made through the selection of comparable properties used in the sales comparison approach, or the deduction of certain line items of expense for management fees, maintenance, or replacements in the income approach. For example, page 271, number 195. Least fee interest when intangible assets exist. Question: I am appraising a single tenant retail property that is being sold with financing by my client, which is a bank. The property was developed by XYZ Company and just completed last month for a total development cost, land and improvements, of $1.5 million. The developer is part of a large retail chain that will occupy the building at an above market lease rate. The property is being sold to an investor on a sale leaseback basis for over $2 million. This sale price is supported by several other sales that also have above market leases that were also created by the same type of sale leaseback arrangements. When I questioned the seller / tenant's representative, they said that both parties recognized the lease rate was above market and that the price was well above replacement cost. They noted that the lease supported the sale price and that the credit strength of the XYZ Company warranted using the above market lease rate for the valuation. Should I allocate the portion of above market rent to the real estate or treat it as an intangible? My client insists that I attribute the entire rent to real property value. What does USPAP require in this situation? Response: the subject of this appraisal is real property, not intangibles. Specifically, the leased fee estate. Therefore, Standards Rule 1-2E applies. The characteristics of the lease must be identified in accordance with Standards Rule 1-2E Roman numeral 4. In developing a real property appraisal, Standards Rule 1-2E states an appraiser must identify the characteristics of the property that are relevant to the type and definition of value and intended use of the appraisal, including Roman numeral 1, its location and physical, legal, and economic attributes. Roman numeral 2, the real property interest to be valued. Roman numeral 3, any personal property, trade fixtures, or intangible items that are not real property, but are included in the appraisal. Roman numeral 4, any known easements. That's highlighted. Restrictions, encumbrances, leases. That's highlighted. Reservations, covenants, contracts. That's highlighted. declarations, special assessments, ordinances, or other items of a similar nature. And Roman numeral 5, whether the subject property is a fractional interest, physical segment, or partial holding. Bold added for emphasis. Further, the valuation in this assignment must address the effect of the lease on value in accordance with Standards Rule 1-4D that states, when developing an opinion of the value of a leased fee estate or a leasehold estate, an appraiser must analyze the effect on value, if any, of the terms and conditions of the leases. In this situation, you are required to analyze the effect on value of the above market lease. The result of the analysis must be reported in accordance with Standards Rule 2-2. For example, 2-2A Roman numeral 8, which states in part, summarize the information analyzed, the appraisal methods and techniques employed, and the reasoning that supports the analysis, opinions, and conclusions. End of page.